Welcome to Tamer Bowling Video Ball Reviews.
We need your support, so if you like what we do, please support us by joining our Patreon page. Don't forget to check out our partner Pureit Bowling at pureitbowling.com. Today we're testing the new Motiv Venom Recoil. We're testing on a medium house shot and the PBA Bear pattern. First impressions, we understood what we were seeing right away with the Venom Recoil. Really good matchup for Bryan. It's a very smooth ball. For value, we gave it a B. The Venom balls are not very expensive and typically pretty usable. Overall, we gave the Recoil a B on house shot, B on sport shot. Bottom line is the Venom Recoil is smooth and archy. That's the simplest way to put it. It has deceptive motion. What I mean is it looks like it's going long, but it's actually arcing. Depending on the bowler, this thing is best suited for medium to medium light patterns and likely shorter patterns as well. It uses the same cover as on the Villain and T10. Honestly, the relationship of those make perfect sense while avoiding overlap. Without the T10 on hand, there feels like a big gap between the Villain and the Recoil, and clearly the core is a pretty big delta. We know the cover is capable of good reaction off the dry. In this case, the gear core, even with the asymmetry, creates a very smooth and slow arcing response down lane. With that said, for me on this pattern, it felt a bit underpowered. It forced me close to the friction where I got some over-under reaction. When I paralleled everything in, it looked much better. I didn't want to cover lots of boards, but when you see that arcing motion in the right part of the lane, it really looks good. Compared to the Villain, you can see that the Villain's much harder off the spot, and this is even more evident on the sport shot later where the difference is night and day. On house, it blends everything closer. Jordan was next, and he had a good overall reaction with the Recoil. The big takeaway is the same as for me. The ball starts up and is smooth and archy, so if you spray it away from the head pin, don't expect it to come back. On the other hand, it's at its best when you pull your break point in, which allows it to drive nicely through the pins. For Jordan, that look was about 17 to 9 or so. If you got it out to 5 or 6, which is pretty typical on this house shot with other balls, it's not likely coming back, although with Jordan's rev rate it occasionally did. Again, the Villain was several boards stronger overall. You had to get deeper to hold pocket. It's a pretty clear difference between the two balls, as you would expect from Motiv's ball guide. For Bryan, the Venom Recoil really seemed to match his game and his pattern. It starts to roll up, and you can see it look a bit more archy than my shot throughout the entire lane. Since it started so early, Bryan had to bump in to find some oil. And once he paralleled in, the shot looked really nice for him. It's archy, predictable, and pretty consistent. He had to push it quite a bit to get it to underreact. It was more prone to overreact for him since it started so much earlier. Just as with the rest of us, for Bryan, the Villain is stronger down lane than the Venom Recoil. For the sport shot, we tested on a 39-foot Bear pattern. This is a pretty nice control reaction for such a pattern. For me, there were two looks, but both fairly direct. One from 12 to 10, keeping the breakpoint in, which on this shot has it dry very well. The other from 8 to 6, which gets to the pocket a little differently, but the same results. Either way, keep the angles tight. With the Villain, 13 to 9 absolutely demolishes the pins. It's a significant step up in reaction. For Jordan, he can open up more than I can, but still had to take care not to get too far out. 16 to about 8 worked. The line was a little tricky as there was little forgiveness from in or out. Bryan had the best look of the three of us, going about 17 to 11. And even though he's keeping the breakpoint in, he's able to open up his angles more than I can, but still see good drive. Final thoughts, the Venom Recoil is a perfect fit in the lineup in terms of how Motiv placed it. It was clearly a pretty good matchup to Bryan's game on this volume pattern. For me, with a little bit more ball speed and projection, I'd like to see it with a bit more surface or on a lower volume pattern to take advantage of what it can do. Ultimately, we all saw a very smooth arcing ball that can blend those medium to medium light volume tricky patterns.
I need to tell you the one Tamer Elbaga reviews.